This is the magicwordpodcast.com.
Hello, this is Scott Wells for the magicwordpodcast.com. This week we are actually in Las Vegas, Nevada, and going to be talking with several people out here this month, which you will be the benefactor of hearing some of these conversations coming up in future weeks. But right now we have someone who is our guest this week, who is from Chicago, who was just coming through Houston recently on a lecture tour. So Luis is someone who is a regular at the Chicago Magic Lounge. He also performs at the Magic Castle and the House of Cards in Nashville, among other places, and corporate work, etc. It does all the normal things for a guy who is only 34 years old. He has some incredible chops, proven by the lecture he just had presented when he was here in Houston. But moreover, he has a lot of very interesting stories, despite his young years. As I said, he actually has a lot of experiences that we can learn from. And in particular, one of the things I have benefited from in this discussion here, that I hope you do as well, are some of the changes in the social mores, if you will, when you're performing in nightclubs and before a particularly young group, or for any group of people for that matter, some do's and don'ts, things that might have been appropriate before but aren't anymore. So we go into a little bit of that, and this is something I think that we can all learn and benefit from in this week's episode. So please welcome my guest from Chicago, Illinois, La Bestia, or the Beast, Mr. Luis Carreon, here on The Magic Word. This evening I'm with a friend of mine who is from Chicago, Illinois, and a friend of mine, I say, that we've known each other for quite some time, and someone who has a vast amount of experience for his relatively small number of years here on planet Earth. So he has just recently completed he's been doing a lecture tour around the U.S. that has been interspersed with performances in different locations, like Chicago Magic Lounge and at Nashville's House of Cards and other places, the corporate events and everything like that, the Magic Castle, etc. And we'll get into all that. I thought that it's somebody that you should meet and you should know, because this is a young man who's going to be going a long way in a very short time. Please welcome Luis Carreon.
Scott, thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much.
So glad that you are here. I'm glad that you could make it. And also, I wanted to go back, I guess, to the first time we'd met. And what was the name of the magic shop there in Chicago?
Yeah, it was E.C. Reese's House of Tricks.
Say it again. E.C. Reese's.
E.C. Reese's.
E.C. Reese's.
Yeah, it was ICCY-RICCY.
Ah, okay.
E.C. Reese's.
Now, and that's no longer there.
No. No, they closed about, let's see, I've been a Magic King for 11 years. It's probably about 15 years they closed ago. Yeah, around 15, yeah.
So it's been a while since it's left.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was when you first got started working, I guess. Well, you were doing magic also. Were you working at a restaurant or something at the time, or?
You know, I was doing some magic here and there, but it was really when I walked into E.C. Reese's that's really when, like, my magic career, like, that's when I decided this is really what I really wanted to do. And part of it was the owner of the magic shop, Mike Residency. Mike Residency, many years ago, he used to be one of the owners of a little bit of magic, which was a bar club, in Chicago, and he helped a lot of people, Bill Malone, so many people that he helped through the years. And I walk into the shop, he says, "You want to work for me?" I say, "Yes." And then a week later, he says, "You know what? I think you can do this magic stuff," and he helped me with starting getting bookings. So that's really what that E.C. Reese's did a lot for me, besides giving me a job. Yeah.
Now you talk about a little bit of magic. That goes back to when they had the New York Lounge and what was that? The Pickle Barrel.
The Pickle Barrel.
Yeah.
Right, where Ernie Spence used to perform. Yeah.
And those kinds of places, I guess, Julian's, which don't exist anymore.
No, not anymore.
So that's why the Chicago Magic Lounge is kind of playing homage, I guess, to a lot of those original lounges.
Yeah, that's the mission of the Magic Lounge. I mean, when you walk into our closer room, which is called the 654, you see all this memorabilia from like Little Bit of Magic, the New York Magic Lounge. We have the original sign from the New York Magic Lounge.
Oh, I saw that in there. That is the original one, huh?
That's the original one.
Okay.
That's the original one. Mm-hmm. There's a magician from Chicago who had it, Mr. Ash.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, he had it on his...
He had a magic shop, too,
Yeah,
for a while, didn't he?
Yeah.
That was right across from, it wasn't too far down on the same street where Magic Ink was.
They were like 2 blocks apart from
Two
each
blocks,
other.
yeah. And he had, as I recall, in the back room, just a bunch of crap.
And that's where the sign was.
Okay.
He's like, I think I have someone back there, and then he dug it out.
Wow. Now, he's, of course, been closed for a long time then, too.
He's still open. He passed away, I think, about maybe 2 years ago.
But somebody took it over from him, or?
His son is running the shop.
Still running the shop. So it's still the same location?
Still the same location in Western, in Chicago.
Okay, that's interesting. So, yeah, there's so many things I want to talk to you about having to do with magic shops in Chicago and everything as well. But also the fact, I think it's interesting that you were there. And did you do a trick or something at the magic shop at Easy Weesy's? So he saw you and said, hey, I'm looking for a demonstrator?
Yeah, because I used to go by their tricks, and I was young, so whenever you have the young magicians walk into the store, they always want to show off what they can do.
Yeah,
and I want to do that. I think I did Color Monty, but he was impressed by my handling. That he said, "Hey, you want to work here?" I'm like, "Sure." So yeah, I did a try. Yeah, but I used to frequent there just to buy little things.
Right. Did you have people who came in who were fans of yours, I guess, and said, "Hey, I'm looking. Is Luis in today?" And I mean.
Not at Easy Reese's, because that magic shop was, it was a whole year round. It was a custom shop, and the magic counter was small. So
it was a custom shop?
Like for Halloween costumes.
Oh, costumes.
Yeah,
sorry. Yeah,
it's my accent.
Yeah.
For Halloween costumes, and on the back they had like a bachelor room for like over the heel and weird things like that. And the magic counter was over the years, I guess, it gotten smaller.
Yeah,
because they were making more money doing that. So. Magic was kind of slow sometimes. But
costume shops tend to be the larger of the businesses, and magic kind of was on the back burner. But then again, costumes, although they can rent them year-round, it's usually around Halloween, and that's whenever they close down the magic counter.
Right.
Because they don't have time to demonstrate because people are coming in looking for costumes.
Yeah. So
is that kind of the same way there?
It was kind of the same way,
And then I would assume that, like most costume shops, once these mega stores of Halloween came around and started selling costumes from China so cheap, it will put them out of business.
It's hard to compete with that,
Yeah.
We will get a guy who will make this really beautiful like Halloween mask, and like, but they were really nice in detail. And of course, it's like $80 for a mask, but then you can find like a cylinder mask like at any store that is cheaper for like $20. So it kills the business. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been the death, I think, of a lot of shops, and I'm thinking also as far as a lot of the magic shops in Chicago had closed, probably as more and more online shops had opened up. It's just getting more difficult, and the people who had been running them for so many years just didn't have anybody in their family who was interested, or perhaps even anyone who would see that as a good business model.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, running a magic shop, it's hard. It's because you never know how your day is going to go. You never know who's going to walk into the shop, what business is going to happen at the shop. So
what would be a typical day for you back then? Of course, this was 20 years ago, but...
Man, well, Easy Reese's was like...
Or 10, well, how long would that have been? 10, 15?
Yeah, it's about 15.
Yeah.
It was probably about maybe 3 people walking in. And then if it was just like a slow day, I would... like I say, on the back, we had that bachelor room, and they sell kind of exotic things. So my job was just to go back there and clean those things, because he was so slow.
Okay.
All kinds of weird stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the funny thing about that job. If I remember one thing about working at Easy Reese's when it was slow, it was just me having to go back there and clean that stuff.
Now, you're talking about where they have like adult toys, novelties,
right,
and
for
videos.
Like a bachelor party and all kinds of weird things, and
okay.
It's fun. And I was like young.
Any stories you could share?
Well, it would be weird. I will be cleaning things, and then I will get just guys coming in. I'll be like, "Hey, man, which DVD do you recommend?" I'll be like, "Just get that one," And
you hadn't viewed them all.
No, I would just point to the wall while I keep cleaning.
Yeah,
all the stuff, But yeah, oh man, yeah.
Wow. And so, again, a lot of magic shops had come and gone. I remember talking to Don Weiberg about in Chicago one time, in downtown Chicago in the earlier years. I mean, there were 6 of them within a 2-block area.
I mean, you used to have
downtown.
Treasure Island, Treasure Island in Chicago. And I forget what was the other name of the magic shop. But we have those counters that they used to be part of the magic shop. They're actually at Magic Ink now. I can't remember the name of the magic shop, but I know Treasure Island was in downtown. I think it was the National Magic Company. Might have been the National.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Now, you didn't work at Magic Inc. when it was over on its original location. What was that?
It was in Lincoln.
On Lincoln?
I did.
Oh, you did? For
I
a while.
worked because we just moved to the new location. We've been there now for 6 years in the new location, and I've been working for Magic Inc. for 11. So yeah, no, I started working at the old.
But Jay had already passed.
Jay had passed away. I think it might have been 2 years by then when I started working.
When you started working there. Who else was working with you there?
Let's see. There was when I started working there was who was still working there? There was a magician by the name of Ben Whiting. Ben Whiting, who now lives in Atlanta. Ben Whiting, that's the only guy that I can remember. Pedro Nieves, he's been managing the shop for.
Yeah, Pedro's been there for a long time. But was he at the old place also?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't remember him being there. Okay.
Yeah, Pedro's been managing Magic Inc. for, oh man, I think he's getting close to almost 18 years now there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I just think of him kind of as running it, and Sandy's just kind of shows up, Sandy Marshall, from time to time.
Yeah.
You know.
No, Pedro's really the guy keeping the place open, and
yeah.
he does a wonderful job. Yeah.
So you and Pedro and who else are there now at the new place?
Oh, Nathan Cowell. Nathan Cowell is a young magician from Chicago. He just recently published one of his books called Theseus, A Magical Journey, and it's a wonderful book and just like one
I've
plot.
seen that, and that is a good book.
It's yeah. So he works for us.
Oh, okay.
And he's also the young man who's in charge of putting the new Marlowe book. The Magic Inc. is going to produce.
Now you said they're coming up with the third Ed Marlowe book.
Yep, it's going to be called The Final Cut.
Okay.
And that comes out, I believe, towards the end of the summer. And,
Has John Rockerbomber had anything to do with any of those?
No, he didn't have. It just seemed like he didn't have time. And Nathan Cowell, you know, he's like a Marlowe freak. He knows everything.
Had he ever met Ed Marlowe?
No, he's very young. He's like 20, 21, 22.
No, he wouldn't have met him. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's very impressive for his age. Nathan is it's wonderful. Yeah.
How did he get fixated on Ed Marlowe versus? I mean, there are people who are of the Vernon camp, those of the Slidini camp, and those of Marlowe, and I'm curious about why they will follow one versus another.
I think it was just moving to Chicago. I think
Chicago.
You know, they like to follow the history of Chicago. You know, for example, like nowadays in the world of magic, we have guys who do a lot of like the Tamarisk memorized stack, right? Right. But the Chicago guys, we still go and do the Simon Erickson, just
right.
And it's not because we don't think one is better. It's the Chicago thing. You know, it's like, Simon Erickson was from Chicago. Let's do the Simon
Erickson stack, right?
Yeah.
Right. That's a good point. Well, it's just like I'm sure that people who live in Spain are students of Tamariz or friends, and they support any and everything that he would do, just like they would, I guess, in L.A. or New York, I guess, because Vernon was there first before he moved to L.A.
Yep.
Are really Vernon acolytes, and but Ed Marlowe never left Chicago. He always stayed there.
Yeah, he always stayed.
So what are the what kind of things are going to be including? Are they just moves, they routines, full routines, or in this book?
It's going to be a lot of stuff that was there was quite a lot of booklets that never made it to the for example, like the Cardly Yours. There was a lot of booklets that didn't make it into the books. There's
the what?
Also, little booklets.
Yeah, no, but you said card what?
There's a lot of books that didn't make it to the. There's one of the bigger volumes is called Cardly Yours.
Cardily Yours.
Cardily Yours.
Like heart. Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
And that one contains like the Cardition and things like that. But there was, I mean, he has so much stuff.
He did. Well, one of my favorites, speaking of little booklets, was The Side Steal.
Yeah.
And, man, I had just devoured that book and read it over and over because there are such little nuances and little paragraphs. Like, okay, to hold your finger like this and to flip. And as a result, The Side Steal is my go-to thing I use all the time.
Yeah, it's a great move. And but the new book has a lot of stuff that hasn't been published. It was just published in small little pamphlets. There's also a lot of the stuff from like the Phoenix, the new Phoenix from like back in the days when Jay was running it.
Jay ran the Phoenix?
Yeah, he read it. He there for like the new Phoenix for 2 volumes. You know, there's volume 1 and volume 2 of those 2 books.
The Sphinx. The Sphinx, yeah. Okay, I didn't know that Jay was...
No, not the Sphinx. I'm sorry, the new Phoenix.
The new Phoenix. You
Yeah.
said Phoenix. Yeah, I'm sorry. Nope, I didn't know he was involved with that.
Yeah, if you have a chance to read those, the whole story's at the front. It's like how many guys, it just jumped from so many guys. They didn't want to do it. Like I just don't have time. And of course, it just ended up with Jay. And one of the best stories in those Phoenix is Di Vernon was going to publish his poker deal routine.
Okay.
And Jay asked him after the lecture, "Hey, can you put this on the new Phoenix?" And Vernon said, "I don't know. I promised somebody else to publish it." And Jay was like, "Well, hey, listen, I know you play chess. Why don't we play a game of chess? And then if I beat you, you publish that on my magazine." And Jay beat Vernon on chess. So Vernon had to publish his version of the Phoenix, of his poker deal on the new Phoenix. Yeah, that's a fun story. In there.
That's an interesting story. I hadn't heard that before. I didn't know that Jay was a chess expert.
Yeah, I mean, apparently he did everything for what I've learned over the years.
Yeah. Huh. Wow. I want to first of all, I've been wanting to ask you this for quite some time. In Houston, we have a large Hispanic group of, not magicians, but just a population, many of which largely cannot even, English is not their first language necessarily. And as a result, there are several magicians who are Spanish-speaking who have a very successful career doing magic shows for that community. We don't have a magic shop here in Houston anymore, but Scott Hollingsworth used to be a demonstrator at Frankel's costume and magic shop. And he said it was always amazing because there were some people who would come in and couldn't speak English, and they were pointing at certain things, and they were buying this, and they kept coming back, and they were buying expensive things, and regularly as well, and then realized that there is this whole subculture that's here in Houston. And now we do have some people who belong to and attend regularly to our clubs, but they are bilingual, but we don't have any who are just strictly Spanish speaking because that's not the primary language that we're speaking in the clubs. My question is, I'm wondering if there is a similar kind of, and I'm only asking this because you speak Spanish so fluently, of whether there is a similar culture or subculture of magicians and shows in Chicago that they do that are parallel with the rest of the English-speaking magicians. You know what I'm asking?
Yeah. So right now in Chicago, there's in the Hispanic community, you have what you call like the Mexican clowns, right?
Okay.
And that's kind of like, they do some magic and they do the clowning part of it.
Okay.
So in Chicago, that's kind of like the big thing, the Mexican clown, right?
You mean for like birthday parties and things?
For birthday parties, for, speaking Spanish magicians, there's only two of us. There's me and my other friend, Julio, who goes by the name of Mago Gosner. And he's from Guadalajara. He now lives in Chicago, also performs at the Magic Lounge. But we're like the only, as magicians,
yes,
we're the only two, that
can do a whole act in Spanish.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, this past week, during the week, I was doing my show at the Magic Lounge, and the front row people, they were Hispanic. They didn't speak a bit of English, but I enjoy those moments because I can go in both. As I'm doing the show, I switch between Spanish and English, and the audience really appreciates that. They find that fascinating. It's like a trick itself,
That you can go back and forth so easily.
Yep.
Between worlds, basically.
Yeah.
Huh. So are you explaining the trick that you're doing, or telling the same joke essentially? And
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So for example, like I'll be like, in a second, I'm going to ask you to pick a card. En un momento voy a escoger que escoges una carta, la que tú quieras, whichever one you want. Okay, muy bien. So I just, yeah, it's pretty fun.
Wow. You're your own interpreter,
basically.
It's interesting. I'm assuming that you don't get an equal number of calls for jobs speaking Spanish as you do speaking English.
You know what? I was for a long time. I did. I would get a lot of like shows in Spanish.
Yeah, they'd call you and they'd speak in Spanish over the phone and ask.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or they would be like, "Hey, can we do the show in Spanish?" Now, what I've been getting, I will get calls, but they will be like, "Hey, listen." We have for example, for like a company, right?
Yeah.
Listen, we have employees who speak English, but half of them, they don't speak English. We want to know if you can do that. I'm like, absolutely, I can. And also, what's great about that when it comes to pricing,
that goes to a diffdifferent level because
now I'm doing something else that it's pretty much a custom show if you think about it.
Correct.
But lately, I've just been getting more like, hey, can you do half and half? And for a while, I was just getting just Spanish shows, But yeah, now it's been like half and half.
Have there been Spanish companies? In other words, have you done corporate work or just private work? Spanish, speaking Spanish.
For full in Spanish, it's just been like private.
Okay.
Events.
I mean, they haven't called you like to Peru or someplace
No.
or to. Okay.
No, for the and then for the half and half, those been like companies or like restaurants that are hosting like their holiday party and that sort of thing.
Have you thought about some sort of trade show work? Have you ever done trade show work?
No, never done it.
Okay, I don't know if that appeals to you at all, and if so, perhaps that might be something if you were working in Mexico or Spain where they would have a show.
Yeah.
That you could do magic. I mean, each of those countries have excellent magicians anyhow. Why would they bring you in necessarily?
Right. Yeah.
unless you have something to offer, you know. But I didn't know whether is that a direction or someplace in the future you would like to go? Or?
You know what? Trade shows is something I would like to look into the future. I think maybe once I get older, trade shows is something I want to look at. You know, right now I'm really enjoying just working like the nightclubs, and then just working like the younger crowd events.
Sure.
But I think as
they're young and hip as opposed to old and needing a hip surgery.
Right. But I think once I get older, I would like to definitely try trade shows. For example, like I see Daniel Orleans in Chicago, and he works so many trade shows all the time, and every time I see him perform, he has this look of someone who's mature and someone who can who can definitely sell you the stuff that he's selling you. I think that. I think I still have a little bit more to go before I decide to fully jump into
There's something to
show.
say about that. I mean, it's just like I've heard before, back when I was very young, in saying it's hard to sell mentalism unless you have that little bit of touch of gray, at least a touch. I've got a lot more than that now, but at least you have the experience.
Yeah.
Or if you're young and saying, well, here is a mystery I learned when I was traveling the Orient or I was in India, it's like, it's not very believable.
Yeah.
But likewise, as you're older and you get more of a corporate look and looks like, okay, well, he's weather beaten because he's been in all these meetings and he understands the lingo and probably has been in these meetings, and they could trust you more rather than some guy who is just a youngster. So I understand you're plotting your course.
So I'm like, once I get old, it's kind of like the same thing. It's like when you have your act, and then you have certain jokes that can work for up to a certain age, and then after that you have to change what you want to go with. I think that's kind of like the way I see doing corporate work and trade shows, because I do corporate work, but trade shows in general. Right.
Well, corporate work is different because they want to hire, like cruise ships too. I think that older audiences want to see younger people and try to associate with them as opposed to seeing one who is their same age than necessarily. Likewise, I think that corporations want to encourage that hip kind of, I keep using that term, I guess, but just kind of a younger feel by in language and look.
Right.
This represents our company.
We want the guy with the earrings.
Yeah. Have you ever had anybody say something to you against that? I mean, I've often wondered about people with tattoos or nose piercings or whatever of somebody saying, well, I didn't get a job because of that.
Yeah, not anymore.
Have?
When I was younger, I did, and I think part was because I also had like longer hair.
Yeah,
and my hair was a little more, the style was a little more out there, and it was kind of when I started working more into corporate. I did my look didn't fit for those clients.
That makes sense.
And that's kind of when I would get weird looks, or maybe someone would say a comment like, "Hey, get a haircut, hippie," or something like that.
Yeah, but you got your haircut, but I got a haircut. You kept those, the earrings.
And I think the rings they're going to stay there just because if I remove them, there's a hole there.
Yeah. What is that? What are those called? It's a special kind of.
It's just called gauges.
Gauges. Yeah. Okay.
I got him when I was very young, but nowadays he goes. It goes with the look that I have right now. I wear. I try to find nice suits, so at least the suits will complement the rest of the look.
Yeah. No, you got a very good look, and the photos that I've seen, look very stylish. Looks like something out of GQ. Just you're a handsome man, and the look and the style and everything. It looks very natural for you. So I think it would work. Certainly. And I would think when you're talking about nightclubs, certainly that is your audience then right now, who's up late with you then as well.
Yeah.
Now, another thing I noticed, like when I was at the Magic Lounge, how they are more like a comedy club. When we were coming back, we were in the car earlier, we were talking about comedy clubs, and but things have changed a lot from what they used to be. And also, there are some clubs that have some requirements on speech, and others don't. When I was at the Magic Lounge the first time, I was surprised that they swore, and it sounded like a comedy club. And I thought, it just kind of took me by surprise because I'm used to, as a magician, seeing magicians perform at magic conventions or contests, and they didn't speak like that. And I thought, wow,
Right.
this person's...
Now it's like an F-bomb, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, we don't, surprisingly, we don't get, it's funny, we don't get a lot of magicians who swear on stage at the lounge. But when we do get them, you can tell. And we don't really censor magicians at the Magic Lounge.
Right.
But as long as it doesn't go out of bounds.
What do you mean by that?
Because sometimes we had a couple of times when the jokes went too far, or they used certain words that they couldn't use. For example, we are in Chicago. We are in Andersonville, and that is an area where it's very very strong for like LGBTQ, gay, older people. So there's certain words that we cannot use. For example, they always remind us not to say ladies and gentlemen. Now we have to say friends and neighbors.
Wow, now that's news to me.
Yeah. So now,
I mean, I really sound old, but it's like that's news to me. Wow,
yeah.
No kidding.
And it took us
because of transgender
everything.
and all.
It takes you a while, and I mean, I had it happen once where my original opening line in my stand-up show used to be, I would like to reintroduce myself. For the gentlemen, my name is Luis, and for the ladies, Luis Roberto Carreon, right? And people laugh. And then one time after a show at the Magic Lounge, someone came up to me, and he's like, "You know what? Great show. I do feel a little bit offended. I feel left out because I'm not, I'm a gay man, and I just,
what identifies as a woman, though.
Right. The way you introduce yourself, I just feel left out. So you know what? I had to change the line just to fit the nightclub. But the main thing right now at the Magic Lounge is just we just don't assume. We try to call them by their names or hi or Mr. or Mrs. We just try to go for we don't assume what gender they are. It's really hard because it takes a while to get used to it.
I would think so. I mean, it sounds like what you should do is to go with one name and call everybody Sparky or something, So I don't care if your name is whatever, Letitia. You say, okay, Sparky. And then, they get a joke or a laugh. You're not going to forget the person's name because you keep using that name for everybody in every show. And as long as it's gender neutral, if you will, and kind of funny and not offensive. I don't know whether Sparky might be considered offensive, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But you see my point is perhaps that might be a way of handling it, because if you mispronounce somebody's name, it's like you're not paying attention. And a lot of times sometimes people will have names that are more difficult to pronounce, and they might seem like you're making fun of them.
Yeah, no, luckily at the lounge, that we had, we had, good workshops on how to handle these situations.
Oh, you do have workshops? Mm-hmm. Wait a minute. Tell me about this.
For example, even some of the staff, they have to go to workshops on how to refer to people of other genders or people that are in the process of.
Now, these are for the employees?
For the employees, but also the magicians especially the magicians are there all the time, like the regulars, like me, Paige, Ryan Plunkett. Bibek, we were there all the time. We can take those workshops, or they'll give us a sheet of what was studied through that and how to handle things like that. And
obviously those things change probably month to month or year to year at least.
Yeah. Huh. And then you really think that those classes don't matter until it really happens, and that's when you go, man, maybe I shouldn't have said that.
Do you know right away? It's like, oh, we discussed this and I shouldn't be. Or do you get ready to step on something and then you think, oh, wait a minute, we just had a workshop on that and we were. It sounds kind of like HR. I mean, with some companies, you got to go take some classes in order to make sure you're not.
So now at the Magic Lounge, the first thing we do, if we're going to bring someone on stage, we just we don't say, excuse me, ma'am, or hi, sir. Hi, what's your name? Sarah. Please we give it up for Sarah. So it's all just like by
you don't
name.
Say sir or ma'am or anything. You just okay. Because Sarah may identify as a man or something.
We had it happen where there was a magician on stage and he dropped something on the floor. And it's really dark when you're on stage. The lights blind you.
Lights are blind you, right.
And I guess the coin bounced into the floor. And then someone picked it up and then hand it back to the magician. And the magician say, thank you, sir. And the person went back and was like, I'm not a sir. And, he by accident call him a sir again.
Yes.
And it was like a whole fiasco. You know, it's like
Really?
You
mean, like after the show or during the show? They make a deal of it during the show?
Yeah, the customers complained. They were not happy, you know, and the Magic Lounge wanted to make sure they got taken care of, so they got refunded. You know, they got refunded their show tickets, and then they got, it's a very, you know, it's a very touchy subject that we have to get used to it. You know?
It is a sensitive issue. I can certainly understand, and I know that comedians who are working have to be sensitive as to what their material is and how that changes from time to time. I've heard a lot of stories from different people, and you know, Jerry Seinfeld says, I can't work colleges anymore because there are things that are not funny. I just happened to watch a television show on Netflix a couple nights ago called Thank God for Jokes, and it was like Mike Bigliuski. Anyhow, the point was he was talking about how that all jokes, for the most part, are making fun of somebody or something. So he said, for an example, and he was telling about this joke where he was eating a sandwich in an airplane, and the flight attendant said, "Sir, are there any nuts in that bread?" And he said, "Yeah, I think there's some walnuts." He said, "Well, this lady next to you apparently has allergies to nuts." And he said, "Well, I'm not going to feed the sandwich to her. I'm not going to share it with her." He said, "No, it could be that there's nuts in the air, you know."
God.
And so he said, "Nuts in the air." So anyhow, then he asked her and said, "Yes, there could be, you know, and I'm allergic." I was on the airplane one time myself in which they said, you know, Southwest, they said, "Sorry, we're not going to be serving they don't even have nuts anymore."
Yeah,
but
that's right.
to avoid this, but years ago they did. They had nuts and then another bag of pretzels. Now it's just pretzels and trail mix, basically. But I had not had lunch, and I was with my wife, and I said, "Can I get some nuts?" I said, "I'm sorry, we're not going to serve them." I said, "Can I have it?" And I'll eat it immediately after we leave the plane. I haven't had breakfast, and here it was like 12:30. Haven't had lunch or anything. I said, "I just need something," and they didn't have even pretzels. I said, "No, we can't even give them out." And so I swear, anyhow, the point was, he said that as I'm telling this joke and explaining the situation to you, about out of 1,000 of you, 997 of you are thinking, "Oh, that's funny," but there are 3 of you going, "Yeah, that's me." You know, so there's somebody who's going to get their bull gored, basically, you know, whatever it's going to be, that they are being made fun of, or they're the brunt of a joke. It's difficult to find humor.
Yeah,
it doesn't offend somebody in some way.
It really is like my my stand-up show. It has the whole show is pretty much just you know, it's making fun of myself, you know, but it also touches on the fact that, you know, I'm Hispanic, where I'm from, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
At any moment in the show, do I make fun directly of my people? It's always about me.
That you, not your heritage.
Right. And there was one night at the Magic Lounge where I finished my performance. I felt really good afterwards. People were coming up to me. They say, "I enjoy your show. We loved it." Especially Hispanic people, they come up to me. It's like, "You know what? I loved it.
Yeah.
I connected to the show, you know." And then I had one lady who complained. She wrote an email. I had to write an email back to her.
I bet she was not Hispanic.
She was not Hispanic. Mm-hmm. And she said that she thought my show was very racist. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because there's nothing racist about it.
Right.
It was just me making fun of myself. She just...
It made her feel uncomfortable.
Right. I guess, you know, I guess she was not... I guess she didn't expect that type of comedy in a magic show. I think she probably was expecting maybe, you know, like, "Oh, we're going to go see some card tricks." But my show
pull
is...
a rabbit out of the hat or something. But that's why I'm not going to a comedy club, because I don't want to hear that kind of humor. And they did. And okay.
Right. And so I wrote her an email the next day, you know, just because...
did you apologize, or did you...
You know, I apologized
to
her.
Or did you stand on what you were saying, say, "No, I think I was right," or what'd you do?
Well, I apologized to her. I wrote to her that pretty much to say, "You know what? One of the great things about magic and having this stage is that I can get on the stage and be myself."
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sorry that I offended you. I know maybe sometimes on stage, you know, during performance, you get excited. You can go over the line sometimes. But at any moment, is anything targeted towards my people. If anything, it's pretty much of me just showing that I appreciate my heritage and where I come from, you know. And that's what I wrote to her, you know. And I invited her back to the show.
Never saw her again, though. I guess that was probably...
she didn't reply back either, you know.
Well, I recall years ago, many times, I guess, that Jeff Hobson, who has a lot of gay jokes and things, and he's not gay, has had people who have come to him who have been offended none of whom have been gay. He said, my biggest lovers, people who love my show, are those who are gay, thinking I'm so funny because they're just the way he's going about it without making fun of a sector or a part of society, even though he's not. Anyhow, you know what I'm saying. But the funny thing is, there are others who I guess might be homophobic or something, or feel like, hey, this was wrong, or you shouldn't be, and so it's just it's a slippery slope and a hard, tight wire to walk. I would think.
It's after that show, after that lady. I mean, I changed one line in my show that I think it was the one that did it. You know.
What did you say?
You know, it's funny. It's like,
you remember?
I do this trick where there's a lot of cars get dropped on the floor.
Okay.
And then, of course, people are, there's a mess on the stage, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, I go to a paperback and I produce a broom, right?
Okay.
And I say, oh, sorry, guys, give me a second. I have to do my little Mexican duty now, you know?
Okay, yeah.
And people laugh. Oh, haha, that's funny, you know? Yeah. And I guess the lady just didn't like the joke, you know?
So now you just say, I have to do my duty.
Right. No, so now I change it, and I think it actually works a lot better. You know, I produce the broomstick. Psh, oh my God, I know what you guys thinking. You think I'm like Mary Poppins. No, por favor, es Mario Poppins, you know?
Oh, that's funny.
Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I change it to that. And I feel like sometimes when you get little things like that, sometimes you come out with a replacement line that is even funnier. And it's not offending anybody, you know? And after that show, I just learned that. And seeing other comedians, and I think I saw a documentary about comedians sitting around and talking about how sometimes people get offended, and they just explain how they work around it. After that, you know, not every magician is for every audience, and not every audience is for every magician. You know, I think.
But the audience doesn't know what they're expecting. I mean, just as you said, that lady had come in full well expecting to see cards or rabbits or something. It was certainly not going to be humor. The way that you had presented it.
Right.
And the same thing, I think, when people walk in, they may not be expecting to hear an F-bomb in a magic show.
Right.
They're thinking, okay, if I go to a comedy club, that's one thing, but if I come here, in other words, there are certain expectations that may not be met.
Yeah, because my show, the way I like to think about it, is kind of like, pretty much my show, it's like if you go see, okay, imagine you go see George Lopez do a magic show, the comedian George Lopez, right?
Yep.
That's what my show is. You know, I'm gonna be
He's
honest.
a funny guy.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest about the jokes. They're gonna be straightforward.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be, it's all gonna be based on real things that have happened to me. You know, and that's that's what happened up there. Maybe I was keeping it too real.
Well, that's what I was about to say. I think one of the important things is when you can't make up something, and it does happen in your life, and it is real. I guess I think it would resonate better because you don't have to remember the lie or something that's like this happened to somebody else, or you're trying to remember a joke because you're just telling your life story.
Right. And I think as magicians, you know, we can always tell what's a true story and what's kind of like a made up story in a magic show, you know, like like my grandfather gave me this ring. Like, no,
Correct.
He didn't. No, he
Exactly. Yeah, the one of the hardest parts has to do with conviction. What your goal is to convince your audience that what you're showing them is real when it's always not. And also, in order for them to have that conviction, you have to have an equal conviction. In other words, if you place something in your hand and it's really not in that hand, you have to be convinced it's there in order for them to. If you're not convinced, they can read between that your lies. You know,
same thing with anything that you say on stage. You know, whether it's a story or anything, you really have to mean it. You know.
So do you script yours a lot?
I do. I do script my stuff. I mean, sometimes I don't sit down and write like a full script, but at least I know the main things that I have to say. You know. Because, like I say, most of the stuff on my performances, my presentations are based on things that have happened to me.
Sure.
So I will make notes of the things that I want to say, and then I will work it into into a script. You know, pretty much I'll have a script, but once I memorize it, it just pretty much goes through my head. But I try not to memorize it to the point that it sounds memorized.
It is horrible. I saw a hypnotist perform one time. And he sounded like this. It was very monotone, as if he was reading from a script. And I asked him later about that, and he said, yeah, I had memorized that completely. And I said, well, it sounds like you were just reading in your mind. He said, it's exactly what I was doing.
The problem that I found with that, memorizing a script, because I've seen it a lot, you're so focus on your script and what you have to say, that, for example, if somebody in the audience says something, you completely forget about them and you don't acknowledge that they're there.
Good point.
Because you just keep going through your script, It's, it's like the same rule that I have for when I do my close-up show.
You have to pay attention to your audience. You just can't look at them and they say something funny because you need to acknowledge that was funny. You just can't look at them and go, uh-huh, and then continue on with your script because people aren't going to love you.
Yeah. So I think I always try to make sure that the script it's there, but it's not. It gives me
hard
space
and fast.
to
You have some
focus
room.
on the audience.
Yeah. Do you try to write in your jokes? In other words, do you have X number of laughs per minute you try to keep in as you're scripting this, or does that just happen? Or
it just happens. Like usually the way I work on my scripts, like I'll be at the gym, I'll get on the treadmill, and I'm just running, and then I'll start remembering things that have happened to me that that was pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I can maybe I can make a bit about this, right?
Yeah.
And that's pretty much how they happen, Like one of the newer pieces on my show right now, and I finally got a good chance to workshop it in Nashville. It's pretty much just a routine where a key bends, right?
Yeah.
But then the whole presentation is about this ritual, and the way I get to the point of the ritual, I talk about when I was a child in New Mexico. There was this lady who moved in, and she will do rituals, right, for people.
Curandero kind of
that kind of stuff,
Okay.
And then I talk about little different rituals that she will do.
Okay.
So I say because of that, I've been inspired to do a ritual, right? So we talk about the key bend, and then as this girl is facing the audience, holding the key in her hand, I go behind her and I put on this stupid hat with horns, and then I produce and then I have some palm trees,
Okay.
But that whole presentation came from something that I used to see in my town, in Mexico. I remember her, and it's been it's been working out great. But things like that, I just think about things that have happened to me in my life, and I'm like, that trick will fit for that,
Yeah, that's a good idea of trying to incorporate true life stories of things that have happened along the way. And a lot of times, I'm sure when you're living in the moment, you might be reminded of something else. Mm-hmm. And so I assume you record your shows from time to time. Yeah. So good, because there are things, and obviously you might think of later that you put in that show that you want to keep in another future show.
Yeah, I didn't used to, and believe it or not, Paige Thompson, she will get off stage and she always records her shows. So
now, who's Paige again?
Paige is my wonderful girlfriend. And,
she's marvelous.
She's marvelous. Yeah, she really is.
She's one of my favorite magicians, male or female. She just is so clever. The thing she did with the oil and water with the fingernail polish, that was the most original. I mean, I was watching that on a Zoom show, and I just stood up and applauded. I mean, that was just amazing. Idea.
It's great. She's very creative. And when we went to the castle in December, this past December, we were both in the close-up room, and she did a routine with the nails every night at the Magic Castle, and the audiences.
It's a great trick.
We're just going crazy at the end when the nails happen.
Yeah,
it was just the reactions that she was getting from that. They were amazing. But yeah, she's wonderful.
You got a good girlfriend there. Don't trade her
great.
in.
No, she's not going anywhere.
Well, you say she's not going anywhere. She's been going everywhere. She's been working and performing. And that as we're here now, where is she performing this week?
So this week she's at the Magic Lounge, and then she has coming up a residency at Liberty Magic in Pittsburgh, starting in August. So if you guys are around Pittsburgh in August, go check it out at Liberty Magic. Yeah, she'll be doing her magic show.
Going back to the House of Cards, you said that you were performing there, I know, for about a week or so. Mm-hmm. How were the audiences there?
They were great. they were really great. I went to the House of Cards. This was my second time, but I went to the House of Cards mainly because I wanted to workshop the new material that I was working on. And if you really want to get good at it, that's the place, because you do so many shows.
I know. I miss the Magic Island here in Houston. When I used to work so many shows a night. You're right that you need to have, which not everybody has that opportunity in a venue, particularly on a stage. Now, a lot of people can workshop some things at restaurants, which is the main advantage of having a restaurant gig where you can go table to table and really finally hone a particular routine. But for stage, it's hard to find
it's
places.
It's really hard, especially like for table to table. It's hard. I mean, because you can do the tricks at the table, but it's hard to work on a piece that will be for stage, 'cause
Correct.
At a restaurant, you have to be quick.
Yeah, right.
But the House of Cards is wonderful. You do a lot of shows. They're all 30-minute shows, so it's a lot of hard work. And
they just have one person each week, as
week.
opposed to 2 or 3, like the
That's
Magic
right.
Castle has a palace.
yeah, so Monday through Wednesday, you do 4 shows a night. Then after that, Thursday through Sunday, you do 6 shows a night.
Wow.
They're 30-minute shows. And then Sunday, if you want to do like the brunch shows, you do a total of 10 shows in Sunday, which is what I did. But it's fun. It's fun.
Is it kind of like the castle again, where they bring in children?
Only on Sundays.
That's what I mean, for brunches and things on Sundays?
Yeah, yeah.
Do they do Saturday as well, or just Sundays?
Just Sundays.
Okay.
Sundays, and then at night on Sundays they can bring in kids, but they have to be like over 12 at night.
On Sunday nights?
On Sunday nights, yeah.
Only. The other nights you have to be over 21 to get in.
Yeah, you have to be 21.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it is available. I guess they can bring their kids in for eating, but they can't go into the show, or they just can't come in at all. I mean, it's a restaurant as well as a bar.
Unless it's for brunch or Sunday night shows. Yeah,
Okay.
you can't bring.
Because it is a bar, I
Right.
guess. That
And
makes
they have
sense.
cigars and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Another thing, it's been a while since I've been there, and the close-up shows were kind of stuck in the corner. Have they changed that around? They got a room at all?
No,
or
they still have that. I think they have maybe 2 stations.
Yeah, there were 2 stations I
They
saw
have 2
before.
stations, and then
One was in front of the bar, another one was to the side of the other bar.
yeah.
over
So they still have those 2 stations.
Okay.
But then the main attraction is the if you buy dinner, you get the main stage show.
Right.
Yeah,
And you walk back through that little grotto or whatever into the area there.
yeah. You do that. No, this time around was fun. I did have one bad incident that I'm going to share with you.
Okay.
Because we always hear about these things, but you never really believe them until it actually happens to you. Okay.
Okay.
So Saturday night, I pretty much just have one more night to go.
Yeah.
That's it at the House of Cards, right? And I do this trick where I borrow someone's watch, and the watch goes inside this baggie, and then I pull out the 3 bags, and I do kind of like a Monty bit, like a Monty routine with the bags, right? But then at the end, the watch vanishes, and it appears inside a staple bag, and inside the staple bag, there's a piñata, and inside the piñata, there's the watch, right? So I've done this trick for a very long time.
So you have to break it like a piñata?
No, I don't have to break it. Yeah, actually, the
Okay.
piñata has like it opens a little trapdoor that you can reach in and pull that out.
Okay.
But Saturday night, I borrow so many watches. Some of these watches that I get for the tricks. Like, this is my grandmother's Rolex from like, when, right?
Yeah, very important.
This lady lent me her watch. And pretty much the way that little baggie works, it has a pocket on the back. So that watch has to go into my sleeve, right? This watch is made of ceramic.
Okay.
It's a ceramic watch. Well, the band is made of ceramic, right? I see the watch going to where it's supposed to go, and somehow I moved, and that watch fell out of my sleeve, and it shattered on the floor.
Oh, my gosh.
It shattered on the floor. I mean, the watch didn't shatter, but the band shattered, right?
Yeah.
And as soon as I pretty much I have 2 more tricks to do to wrap up my show. I have to do that trick, and then I have to do like a card trick at the end.
It's not like you can say, good night, folks, and you got 2 more.
No, I see it shatter.
And did the other people hear it, see it?
Everybody saw it. So now the audience is laughing. Everybody thinks it's part of the bed.
Oh.
I'm looking down at this watch, and in my head, I'm thinking, I'm going to pay for these.
Yeah.
The lady, she's also thinks it's part of the bed. I'm like, you know what? I apologize. This has never happened.
Yeah.
I'm sweating. I give her the pieces of her watch, and I said, listen, after the end of the show, I want to talk to you, okay? And so I go back on stage. I forgot. I did like one more card trick. That is not what I do in my set. I just want to wrap this up. The audience is still laughing. Wrap up the show. Thank you so much. The family hangs around. They're talking. They're very nice. They're very nice. They complimented the show. They complimented the comedy. But I had to pay for the watch.
Sure.
So at that point, I'm trying to Venmo them. My signal down there was not good.
Yeah.
So then I go to the ATM. The ATM wouldn't let me get out the amount of cash that I needed for these, and I ended up paying $1,500.
Wow.
For that watch.
Wow.
But now here's where it gets twisted. The next morning I wake up, I'm like, did that really happen? Because pretty much there goes like part of my pay for the week.
Yeah.
You know.
It seems so surreal. I'm sure what you were.
I wake up the next day and I'm like, man, I'm curious. I go on Amazon, and I put ceramic watch, right? And that watch that I broke appears,
No way.
I could have bought the watch for $105.
You got to be kidding me.
So it was just like, it was.
So you got scammed.
You know what? Everybody I told the story is like, yeah, they feel like I got scammed, but they seem like really nice people. And I just like.
Well, how else would you have handled it? I mean, in the moment, they're portraying that as if it is an expensive heirloom.
So at that moment, first of all, I just.
But you're not going to look it up immediately saying, "Oh, I don't believe that." You
Right.
you empathize with them and you want to make it right.
Yeah. So at that moment, number one, I want to make things right. Because, if this is my fault, I want to
Sure.
make things right. And that's what I did. Unfortunately, at that moment, I have the pressure of what's going on. I can't get my apps to work. And then I have to reset for the next show.
Yeah.
And the
A lot of pressure going on right there.
It all happened. But yeah, that was my Joey Martinez, who runs it. He felt really bad. And I said, don't, at least the reason I went to the House of Cards to get the routines that I was working on.
Sure.
I got that out of that. So to me, that was like, I got the job that I needed to get done. I got it done.
Somebody had told me once before where they had, in a restaurant, had borrowed some lady's wedding band or something and did a ring flight with it. And they brought the ring back. And when they did, they, first of all, it vanished. And then when it reappeared, however it was, then this lady said, "That's not my ring." And he's thinking, yeah, it's got to be her ring. She said, "No, that's not my ring." And so this lady who was sitting next to this person said, "Yes, it is. That's your ring. I've seen it 100 times." And she just gave her a scowl. She just gave her a look like, "Poof." And then she took the ring back, and she was trying to scam the guy. She was trying to basically say to the magician, you want to get something out of it. Wow. There are people like that.
Yeah. So now before I do the trick, I have them fill up 10 pages of paperwork. No, I'm kidding. But that would be funny,
That would be.
No, it's at least one thing that I learned from that is, because in part of the routine, I do a moment towards the end where I'm going to bring in the bag. And then I drop the bag and then I step on it. And then you hear this crack.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So then I have to act like the watch broke. Well, now because of the experience, now I know how to actually act.
Talk about conviction.
I know. Now I know what it feels like. So now after that, the rest of the shows, I was just
maybe you should.
Moment.
Well, you say it was 150. I was going to say maybe you should buy some of these from Amazon,
and
so you actually step on them, but not for $150 a show.
No, not worth it for the bit, But yeah, that's those experiences that you hear about that happens to other magicians, like. That's crazy. And then it finally happens to you.
How do you like working at the Chicago Magic Lounge? And I assume you worked at the old place, too, before they moved?
I did. No, I've been with the Magic Lounge since the very beginnings. I remember the first time that we had a meeting at the back of the old Magic Inc. And Joy was telling us about what he wanted to do with the place. And, so I've been with the Magic Lounge since... I'm one of the founding members of the Magic Lounge.
Wow, okay.
And it's just been great seeing it grow into what it is now. Mm-hmm. From something that came from just like magicians hanging out and just want to do a magic show to now an actual it's a business. It's a very successful business, and it's amazing. The people that I work with, the magicians are great.
7 nights a week.
Right, 6 nights. Because
now they used to have, of course, in the old place, they'd had burlesque, and so you had people would leave the room, go back to see the close-up, or whatever, and you could hear them bumping and grinding in the other room next door.
Yeah, because that was the show that theater that we used to be that we used to rent, the Uptown.
Yeah,
that theater was mainly built for burlesque.
Yeah,
they just had an opening at the beginning, so earlier on, so we could do our magic show. But the magic show was so popular there that it was pretty much like it was paying the rent for the venue. The burlesque show was doing good, but it was not as busy as the magic show,
So you left them behind when you went to the new location. Is the burlesque show still there?
It was, no, not anymore. I think it's funny because once we left,
they dried up.
Yeah. So, it closed down. I guess they changed management,
I wonder if it's just because, going back to what we talked about at the beginning, that Chicago is a magic town. They've had success with the Chicago Magic Lounges and different kinds of pubs and bars and whatnot and magic shops.
I think so.
That they've always had a plus, it is Second City as far as all the plays come through there before Broadway or just before or after, or during. I mean, you have just a lot of good live entertainment and a lot of great little theaters and pocket theaters, unlike any other city I know. Maybe L.A. might be next, but Chicago is amazing. So it's a town that really thrives on and enjoys entertainment and appreciates magic. Burlesque is another form of live entertainment, but still not quite as unique as what magic is.
Yeah, people in Chicago are dying to watch magic shows. I mean, right now pretty much every night at the Magic Lounge right now it's been sold out. And our slowest night was usually Mondays, because Mondays we do what we call music and magic, right? So that's the ticket is like a very low price ticket. I think it's around like $20 range. And then you come in, you go to the main cabaret, you sit down, magicians come to your table. There's a jazz band playing, while we do magic.
Right.
And then like around 7:45, a magician goes on stage. We do a 20-minute set. Then the band comes back up. We go back to doing table magic. And then at the end of the night, we wrap up a little stage performance, with like 2 more tricks on stage. And that's Monday nights. And that night was kind of like 50 people, which is still okay.
Yeah. Monday night's is a tough night.
Yeah. Lately it's been like 90 people.
Wow.
100. Because the main theater seats about 126 people. Yeah. Lately that Monday nights has been... It's been great. And that's my favorite night, because that's like the Monday night when you can work on new things, because it's very relaxed. There's no pressure.
Right.
There's jazz music in the background. So that's a good night.
So we talked earlier also about doing a residence there for like 3 months, and you're going to be coming up and doing it 3 months, even though that you perform there on a regular basis.
Yeah.
It's not the same as a residence. What does a residence imply or mean?
So the residency means I get to do my, this will be a night dedicated to my full show.
So what, 90 minutes or how long?
It's an hour show. It's an hour show. I think probably an hour 10. I usually go over time, so it'll probably be an hour 20. But yeah, that's a whole night that is dedicated to my show. Because when I headline,
6 nights a week?
That will be taking place Wednesday nights. Wednesday nights.
So only on Wednesdays do you do your full show.
Yep.
That's the residency for 3 months.
That's right.
Every Wednesday for 3 months. Okay. Are you involved in the main show on the other nights?
I am. So
I mean, would a person who does residency be in the show, or was it just because it's you?
Yeah, no, I'll be involved. I will be involved in the other shows, but because I'm there, because my job at the Magic Lounge is like general. So, for example, like one weekend I will be like, for example, like this weekend I was working the stage with Trent James, who's another fantastic magician.
He is,
and we were both working the stage. But then after that, maybe like the next weekend, I will be working just like doing the table magic.
Yeah.
Or maybe, hey, Luis, we need you to work behind the bar. So I will work behind the bar.
Yeah.
And so yeah, my job just changes around. But I will still be able to do the other shows. I probably won't be on stage just because they want to keep me for that.
Gotcha.
But for the close-up magic, they'll keep me around.
Do you ever? Well, Bibic is the only guy who does magic behind the bar. Or do you ever do bar magic? Or
I do. So I'll do the bar magic. So we have a bar magician seven nights a week.
Two. I mean, Jeff's in one, and isn't Devin in the other one?
Yeah. So Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. No, I'm sorry. Fridays and Saturdays, we have 2 magicians behind the bar because we have 2 shows tonight.
Yeah.
So Jeff Bibic will do the early slot from like 5 to 9, and then and then at 10 o'clock the next magician switches. So usually the late magician,
right?
It will be Devin, or it will be me, or it will be someone else. So it's that's a fun spot. I like that spot too.
Yeah. It's a fun venue and a lot of fun. If people ever get a chance to get to Chicago, and if you haven't, you should. This would be a main place that you should go. Make sure you check out Chicago
absolutely.
Magic Lounge.
Yeah, and hopefully people come around for this residency for me starts in July. It goes for 3 months every Wednesday night, and I'm very happy with the show that they're allowing me to have, because this is a show where I really get a chance to just like be myself and express who I am. And the title of the show is great. For the last year, I've taken on the on this persona where I keep calling myself the Beast.
The Beast.
So
where's that come from?
You know what? I'm a big wrestling fan.
Okay, you mean like WW? Well, it used to be WWF. What is it now?
But WWE.
Yeah.
Pretty much any type of wrestling. Nowadays there's other companies, but I just remember watching wrestlers, and they will be wrestling, and the commentators will be, is he a man or a beast, and I always like that. And now over like the last, I think it really kicked in a little bit before the pandemic, the me just calling myself the beast, like, for example, like towards the end of my show, I'll do like a multiple selection where I find different cards.
Yeah.
And then I'll be, hey, by the way, if I find your card, you say, Luis, you are the beast, right? So now, every time I'm finding a card, the spectator will go, Luis, you are the beast, right? So, and it's great because by the time I walk out of the stage, people are just chanting, beast, 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 right?
Yeah.
So, but it's also, I think it's funny that a magician calls himself the beast, So, so the name of the show is called La Bestia. In Spanish, La Bestia, the beast. But that's what it is. So people are going to go to a magic show. We're going to go watch the beast, So I'm very excited. And
so if you were a wrestler, would it be your name? And you remember, again, I guess, I don't know, again, being 34, whether you remember Hulk Hogan,
of course,
and Randy Macho Man, and Andre the Giant. And I mean, were those part of the people you remember growing up with?
You know what?
Or was yours more The Rock and Steve
more like
Stone
The Rock,
Cold
Stone Cold Steve Austin. But because I'm a big wrestling fan, I go back and I watch like WrestleMania 3, from back on the old days. Because, I like to keep up with the history of wrestling,
Do you watch Young Rock?
Oh, yeah, it's great.
I thought you might like that.
Of course I watch that. It's funny because Paige is really into sports. Mm-hmm. Paige is like a sportsaholic.
Wow, okay.
She does her drafts.
Chicago's a sports town.
Yeah, but this girl, she does her baseball drafts, her football drafts.
Oh, my gosh. Fantasy football and all that, too?
Listen, we'll be watching someone in the close-up room, and her phone is like this, just watching the Warriors basketball game. Yeah, it's the cutest thing ever, and I love it. So she grew up in the Bay Area, so she's like into the Oakland A's. That's her team, right?
Okay.
For basketball is the Warriors, and then for football is Dan Marino, the Miami Dolphins.
Dolphins, yeah.
But she always makes fun of me because she's like, "Oh, you're watching your fake sports." I'm like, "Hey, this is great."
Hey,
so we'll go to wrestling.
Where do you think Mike Jordan came from, man?
But yeah, no, I used to hear that name, the Beast, in wrestling. And I was like, "That's funny."
And that's me.
That's funny. And now, like doing my show, I'll do like something. I'll be like, "Huh? The Beast,"
That is great. Well, as we wrap up, and I thank you very much for being my guest. This has been just a hoot and a half.
No, thank you. It's been great. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm glad that you were here and joining us. So I always close by asking what your magic word is. And I don't mean necessarily a word. What's your philosophy of life? What do you live by? What's important to you?
Definitely, keep moving, don't stop, and follow your dreams. And whatever you think is not possible, it is possible one way or another.
You can make it happen.
Yeah.
You're a beast.
Yeah, that's right. La Bestia. That's what I say. Because in the gray, it's just funny and stupid. But it's like, oh, La Bestia,
Love it. So with the Magic Word Podcast, that was La Bestia.
La Bestia, there you go.
Luis Carreon. Scotty out. Thank you, Luis. I appreciate you being my guest this week on the podcast. A lot of really interesting information, and it's good to get a different perspective from someone who is actually out there and working and in the trenches. And I really respect that you recognize where you are, where you want to go, and when you want to be there. It's a good idea. It sounds like you've got a plan and what you want to do. And I wish you every bit of success, and I think the rest of us can learn from your successes and also some of your advice, particularly about working in nightclubs, or not even there, as I said, even for working corporate events or whatever type of group that you're working for, whether it's close-up, strolling, or whatever. There are certain things you need to keep in mind when you are out performing for people, just to be sensitive, I guess. So thanks again for your advice. It was really great. Well, we have some more people, again, going to be coming up in future weeks. I want to advise all of you to make sure you subscribe to our pod letter. And if you go to themagicwordpodcast.com, there you can find a little pop-up, probably it'll come on your screen, that will say, join the pod letter, and you just give your name and email. And each week, whenever the new podcast comes out, we tell you not only who is on that week, but also who's coming up next week, and some suggestions from the archives as well. So be sure to do that. And while I'm at it, I may as well throw in appeal for you to consider giving a pledge or a financial donation whenever and however you can, and whatever amount. It would certainly be appreciated to help keep this podcast going far into the future. And thank each of you for listening, and it would be particularly helpful too if you could help share this by sharing it on your social media with others who follow you, so that way we might have some other people join the podcast revolution here and listen then as well. And of course, you can always give us a 5-star rating on whatever kind of platform that you use, whether it's iTunes or the Google Play Store or wherever. And be sure to catch us on YouTube as well at youtube.com/TexasMagician. Speaking of things that will be coming up, I was in Los Angeles area recently when they were filming the 9th season of The Masters of Illusion, and in a future episode, actually in 2 future episodes, I'm going to break it up into 2 parts. I'll be giving you a behind the scenes of what it was like actually being there in the audience and talking with the talent and producers and actors, etc., and audience members. It'll be pretty cool. I think you'll enjoy that. And speaking of Masters of Illusion, of course, Season 8 is currently running on the CW network here in the U.S., and they will also be having a live show for Masters of Illusion that opened on June the 9th in Atlantic City and will be running through September 4th. And if you are on the West Coast near South Lake Tahoe in Nevada, then you can... Let's see, is that actually Nevada? I think that's on the Nevada side, not the California side. Yeah, there's a state line running right through South Lake Tahoe there, but I think it's on the Nevada side. Anyhow, in South Lake Tahoe, Masters of Illusion is going to present Alex Ramon. So go and check that out. I'm not sure exactly on the timing, but that's going to be coming up sometime here soon as well. So I thought, just kind of as a public service announcement, you might like to be able to check that out and see some live magic if it happens to be near where you reside. So until next week, stay well, get booked, and remember to keep moving. Don't stop. Follow your dreams, and remember, whatever you think is not possible, it is possible one way or the other. This is Scotty out.